The movie begins with Will and his girlfriend, Kira, driving to a dinner party hosted by Will's ex-wife, Eden, and her new partner, David. Kira senses Will might not be emotionally ready to see Eden again, but he insists he's okay. We learn that Will and Eden split up after the tragic death of their son. After the loss, Eden joined a grief support group, met David there, and then disappeared with him to Mexico. Now, after 2 years, they're back and inviting old friends to reconnect. While driving, Will accidentally hits a coyote. He gets out and sees it suffering. With no other option, he uses a tire iron to end its pain. Shaken but composed, he continues to the party with Kira. When they arrive, they reach a lavish house that Will explains never belonged to him. It was always Eden's. Inside, Will reunites with old friends including Tommy, Miguel, Ben, Claire, and Gina. Everyone is happy to see each other after such a long time. Will asks about another friend, Choi, who hasn't shown up yet. Gina, his girlfriend, says he's always late and she can't get a phone signal at the house. Soon, Eden and David make their entrance. Eden warmly hugs Will, saying she missed him. David welcomes them and says they're here to celebrate. He brings out a fancy bottle of wine to share with everyone. As they chat, Will is disturbed when he sees a half-naked woman walking through the hall. He assumes it's a hallucination, but the woman soon joins them and introduces herself as Sadie. She says she met Eden and David in Mexico and now lives with them. Everyone settles in and the evening continues, but Will starts feeling uneasy. He begins quietly looking around the house. In the kitchen, he has a flashback of Eden trying to take her own life years ago. She sneaks up behind him and compliments his looks, which unsettles him further. He asks about the metal bars on the windows, and Eden explains they were added for safety when she lived alone. Will asks how she's really doing. Eden says she's better than ever and has freed herself from emotional pain. Just then, Ben joins them and Eden begins talking intensely about how pain is just a choice and can be removed from the body. Ben jokes about her strange beliefs, but Eden suddenly slaps him across the face, shocking everyone. She storms off, and Will and Ben quietly talk about how oddly she's acting. They agree something feels off, and Ben wonders if Eden's still struggling with past trauma. Ben tells Will he seems to be doing better, but Will admits he still hasn't truly healed. When they rejoin the group, Eden apologizes to Ben and offers him a drink. Will then chats with Claire, who confesses she's also feeling that something isn't right. Like him, she senses that the entire night has a strange and uncomfortable energy. A car pulls up outside and the guests assume it's Choi finally arriving. But it turns out to be someone none of them recognize. David introduces the man as Prut, saying they met him while in Mexico. Gina grows more anxious about Choi, who was supposed to be there hours ago. With no cell signal, she asks to use the landline, but Eden says it's disconnected because they forgot to pay the bill while they were away. Soon after, David locks the front door and keeps the keys. Will questions him about it, and David explains that there was a recent break-in nearby, so he's just being careful. Will presses further, asking what would happen in case of a fire. David hesitates but eventually puts the key back in the door and tells Will to calm down. Later, Will steps outside to collect firewood, still haunted by painful memories of his son and the past. As he returns, he sees Eden going into a room and placing something in a drawer. Curious, Will sneaks into the room and finds a bottle of unmarked pills. Just as he examines them, David appears and invites him to rejoin the group. Will then recalls a memory of him and Eden sharing an intimate moment, only to be interrupted by their young son. In the present, David and Eden tell everyone they've become part of a group called The Invitation. Sadie and Prut are also members. The guests begin to grow uneasy, suspecting it might be a cult. David insists it's not, just a group of people who have been through loss and want to heal together. To explain more, David plays a video showing the group's leader in Mexico. The man talks about helping people recover from trauma through spiritual healing and mental rewiring. The video then shows a woman near death, surrounded by members of the group. She says she's ready to join her deceased husband and father. The leader comforts her, saying they're waiting for her and that her pain will soon end. The woman peacefully dies as the group joins hands and closes their eyes. The guests are shocked by the video, but David and Eden insist they only showed it to demonstrate that death isn't something to fear. David shares how he struggled with drug addiction after his wife's death and how the group helped him recover. He begins talking about Eden's pain over losing their son, which makes Will visibly uncomfortable. Just then, the doorbell rings. David and Prut step away to speak with some strangers outside. Will watches their conversation suspiciously. When he asks about it, David casually says they were just neighbors looking for a different party. Feeling unsettled, Will separates himself from the group and sits alone in the kitchen. Miguel notices this and checks in on him. Since Miguel is a doctor, Will shows him the pill he found earlier in Eden's drawer. Miguel identifies it as a barbiturate, a sedative that can be dangerous in high doses. Later, David apologizes to the guests for showing them the disturbing video and suggests they lighten the mood by playing a game called I Want. In this game, each person says something they truly want. Sadie goes first and says she loves everyone in the room, then unexpectedly kisses Gina on the lips, leaving everyone stunned. Next, Prut says he wants to share a personal story. He talks about his late wife. They had been married for 8 years when one night, after an argument while he was drunk, he hit her. She fell, hit her head, and died. He served 7 years in prison for it. After getting out, he says he still carried the same darkness inside him until he joined the group, The Invitation. Since then, he claims, he no longer feels guilt or grief because he believes he'll reunite with his wife in a better place. His story shocks everyone. Claire, in particular, is clearly uncomfortable and decides she wants to leave. David tries to persuade her to stay, but Will supports her decision and insists she should go if she wants. Prut mentions that his car is blocking hers and offers to move it, so the two leave together. Will watches from the window as Prut helps Claire with her car, but then sees him stop her for some reason. Before Will can react, David interrupts and pulls him aside to talk. David asks why Will is being so suspicious and why he seems upset with everything. Will apologizes and admits he might not have been ready for this gathering. David says they all need to move forward and focus on healing. Later, everyone gathers for dinner, but Will continues to feel anxious. Flashbacks of the day his son died during a birthday party haunt him. Overwhelmed, he leaves the table to get some air. As he walks downstairs, he notices Sadie in another room making strange faces in a mirror. She sees him watching, and he quickly walks away. Out by the pool, Sadie follows Will and starts asking about his relationship with Kira. She hints that Kira feels distant. Then, to Will's shock, Sadie suggests they have sex right there, saying people in Mexico used to be intimate with each other all the time. Will firmly refuses and tells her to go back inside. After that, Will walks around the property trying to get a cell signal to contact Choi, who still hasn't shown up. Tommy finds him and asks what's going on. Will says something feels very wrong about the whole evening. Tommy brushes off his concern and tells him to stop acting paranoid, saying he's scaring everyone. Eventually, Will finds a signal and checks a voicemail from Choi. In it, Choi says he was already at the house earlier but had to leave quickly because he forgot to bring dessert, asking Will to pick it up on the way. This message shocks Will. If Choi was already at the house, why hasn't anyone seen him? Will, now extremely concerned, returns to the dining table just as the lights suddenly go out. Eden appears holding a birthday cake for Miguel. The mood seems cheerful, but Will snaps. He demands to know where Choi is and explains about the voicemail. He says Choi was at the front door earlier, but no one ever saw him after that. Eden insists Choi never came in. Will continues pressing for answers, asking why the dinner invitation came out of nowhere after 2 years, and why people from the cult are present. The tension in the room rises quickly. Kira urges him to leave with her, but Will is determined to figure out what's really going on. Then the doorbell rings. To everyone's surprise, it's Choi. He explains that he had come by earlier but had to rush out for something work-related and forgot to come back until now. Will is stunned and emotionally overwhelmed. He begins crying and apologizes for accusing everyone. Eden and David comfort him, saying it's okay, that he belongs there, that he's part of their family. Later, while Will is sitting alone in the backyard, Kira finds him and tries to comfort him. He opens up about the pain he still feels over losing his son. He blames himself and admits he hasn't been able to move on. Kira gently tells him that healing doesn't mean forgetting and that moving forward isn't a betrayal. Will then goes inside and visits his son's old bedroom. As he stands in the room, he starts remembering the times they shared, which brings him to tears. Looking out the window, he notices David in the backyard lighting a red lantern. Curious and uneasy, Will returns to the laptop they had used earlier and finds another video from the same cult leader. In the video, the man urges followers to let go of fear and promises a great reward for those who are ready to cross over. His words sound like a final push towards something dangerous. Will rejoins the others at the dinner table. David begins pouring wine again and tells everyone how glad he is that they're all here, united and ready for peace. The group prepares to toast. Gina has already taken a sip when Will suddenly stops everyone. He yells at them not to drink. Sadie becomes furious and accuses Will of ruining everything. She lunges at him, but Will pushes her away. She hits her head on the corner of a table and collapses. The group rushes to check on her, but then someone notices Gina. She's collapsed too, foam coming from her mouth. She's dead. Panic spreads. Miguel runs to help Gina, but David pulls out a gun and shoots him. Prut then grabs the weapon from David. As everyone tries to flee, Prut shoots and kills Choi. When Tommy tries to fight back, Sadie slashes David with a knife to stop him. They run downstairs looking for a way out, but all the doors are locked. Will and Kira lock themselves in a room, only to realize the windows are sealed with metal bars. While hiding, they peek outside and witness David and Prut dragging Ben into the yard and shooting him. Kira starts to lose control, but Will calms her down and says they are just people and they can be stopped. As they quietly sneak down a hallway, they overhear David and Eden talking. Eden is upset that things turned violent and says they were supposed to die peacefully through the wine. But David insists that their plan must be completed no matter what. Once they leave, Will and Kira go upstairs to find another way out. On the way, they see Sadie still alive, but she's badly injured, having stabbed herself with a fireplace poker. Will carefully takes the poker from her and they move on. Before they can go far, Prut appears with a gun. A struggle breaks out. Prut gains the upper hand and nearly kills Will, but Kira attacks him with the fireplace poker, striking him repeatedly until he dies. Will and Kira hurry back downstairs only to run into Eden, now holding a gun. She shoots Will, but the bullet misses anything vital. Then, overcome with grief, she turns the gun on herself and shoots herself in the stomach. David soon appears and calls out to her. Will warns him not to come closer since they have a weapon. But David says it doesn't matter because he's going to die anyway. Just then, Tommy, who had survived the earlier attack, shows up and stabs David, killing him. After the fight ends, Will and Kira approach Eden, who is barely alive. She tells Will she misses their son and asks him to take her outside. He carries her into the yard and she dies shortly after. In the aftermath, the three survivors, Will, Kira, and Tommy, hug each other, crying and overwhelmed by everything they've been through. Suddenly, they hear police sirens in the distance. But then something horrifying happens. They hear screaming and gunshots from nearby houses. Looking out into the night, they see red lanterns lit outside several other homes, just like the one David lit earlier. They realize with horror that this wasn't just one event. It was part of a much larger coordinated mass suicide. The cult is everywhere, and it may not be over, bringing the movie recap to an end.